And welcome to this week's Roll of 24, part of John's Eclectic Photo Time Story Adventure. And as you just saw, the inside of the video of a Luray Caverns over here in Virginia, just south of the Shenandoah Mountain. And once again, we're going to have an eclectic array of photographs. We have some setting sun pictures over what's called the Blue Ridge Shadow Golf Course, located in Front Royal, Virginia, and some Canadian geese that were at the golf course that I went out early and captured. And then we have some photographs from the Arboretum for the state of Virginia, and some birds, and then the purposeful picture this week, which was focused on red. These first two images are overlooking the Blue Ridge Shadow Golf Course from the hotel parking lot that I was staying at over in Front Royal. And I just loved how the sun was setting, the clouds were reflecting the light, and that I actually captured two golf carts still out there on the course. So here in the first image is a view looking down and over the Blue Ridge Shadow Golf Course that was situated to the west of the hotel that the lovely bride and I were staying at. And we had just come back. You can see the hour, it says 5:29, it's actually 6:29 because I'm on the Eastern time zone. So all these times are minus 1 hour because I still have my camera set up for Central time zone. Something to remember. Anyways, the sun was setting and I just loved that, so I grabbed the camera, told lovely bride as she moseyed on up to the hotel room that I was going to go out and take some pictures. And this was from the back of the hotel to the north, and as I was setting up there were still two golfers out. Now I have lightened this up some, but it was getting pretty dark, so I'm surprised they were still out there golfing. So as the sun continued to set, because you can barely see it above the horizon over there at the 9 o'clock position on this photograph, I moved from the back of the hotel over to the front of the hotel, once again still looking downward. And across the way there is the clubhouse, which was in last week's photograph that I had shot the prior week. And I just loved how the light beams were coming in off of the clouds and how red they were intermixed with the clouds and the atmosphere that it projected. And so I spent about 15 minutes there taking a variety of different shots, and I just loved how this one, you no longer see the golfers on there because now it definitely is darker out there. I did lighten this up in post-processing to bring out all the textures and the overall scene in the cloud cover. So this next photograph is from Tuesday. Lovely bride and I were out driving around Virginia trying to figure out where to go. We did eventually go to Luray Caverns, which we're going to follow, and the Shenandoah Forest, which was without trees. But down here in Texas, we have Texas bluebonnets, and over here in Virginia, we just saw fields and fields of what I later found out was called sneezeweed, just really bright yellow flowers. So in this picture, this was one of the few fields we found. We were able to locate a pull-off basically right in front of this. The house is no longer occupied, and there was a small chain covering the dirt entrance just to the right of the photograph that's not in here. So we got fortunate, and it looks like a lot of people do pull over here to photograph this house in this field, because we had seen probably about 8 or 9 other fields, but it was like a 65, 70 mile an hour road and difficult to pull over, and by the time you see it, analyze it, and then look for a place to go, you either have 2 or 3 cars right up behind you, and you go a couple more miles and find a road so you can pull off and turn around thinking. So anyways, we were driving down and we saw this field, And so we were able to pull over, get out, and spend about 35-40 minutes here capturing this. So in this image and the next image, this is a panorama inside of the Luray Caverns. And it's kind of nice. It's a U.S. national landmark located over there in the Shenandoah area. Pretty interesting backstory about a person who was walking in their fields at night with a candle, and some wind came up from underneath and blew out the candle, and he did some exploring and found this cavern. What was nice about it, in my opinion, I've been through other caverns, but it's a self-paced tour. You don't have a guide or anything, though there are park people in there if you want to stop and ask them a question or two and get some history on it. But that's what I just really like. So you'd have a crowd of people coming up behind you, and you just pull over and sit and wait. And so I really like this image here, and I took a panorama. It's 5 frames. Is that that's water down at the bottom, so it's all reflective. And this is the second image from inside the Luray Caverns, and this is a 4-point focus stack, and I focused on the rock in the front, the little opening there at the 1 o'clock position. Then I focused up over there at the 11 o'clock position on that taller rock, and then the last one was down the stretch of rocks going straight from front to back. And this was kind of nice in the sense that this was designed so it's right at chest height, so I was able to set the camera down because I don't have a tripod in the cavern with me. Probably highly discouraged. It's not dark, but it's dark enough that people would be tripping over somebody else's tripod. So I was able to position the camera and get this focus stack just by touching the back of the screen. So I just really enjoyed this photograph. And the ceiling just goes on and on and on and on. Action.
That is upside down city. No country. Look at the tree upside down. All different colors.
So after we exited the caverns, and they say it's an hour and a half, and we spent about 2 hours and 15 minutes slowly moseying around, letting groups pass us. But right outside the entrance down to, this is facing south into the Blue Ridge Mountains, or Shenandoah Mountains, whatever they're called, Blue Ridge. And I saw this image here, probably took 6 or 7 of them. And so the whole thing was getting that water tower just right below the ridge line so that it was mixed in. I had a couple images where it poked above the ridge line, and the just didn't look very good. I wish I could have got a little bit higher, but I could not. And I was using the 100 millimeter macro lens because the other lenses, the 14, just didn't work for this type of image. So after Lovely Bride and I got back to the hotel, once again the timestamp is an hour off. It's actually 5:34 in the afternoon. So we'd finished the Luray Caverns, and then we went out to the Shenandoah National Park, and we drove close. We found the gift store, bought a whole bunch of gifts because it's like we're never going to come back out here again, most likely. And then it took about 50 miles to drive north through the park. The park road's 110 miles long from north to south, and we needed to head back up north to exit out in the town that we're staying in for the week up there in Front Royal. So we got back to the hotel, and the sun was starting to set, and I went down to the golf course and captured some images of some Canadian geese that were still just wandering around from earlier that morning when I took pictures of them landing. It was pretty interesting. So now this is the following morning. This is Wednesday morning, April 8th. And Lovely Bride had said the night before that it was supposed to get down to 35 degrees. And I'm looking around and went out to the car and still had some cold weather clothes from a recent camping trip Charlie and I had gone out on. So I brought all that up, and Went down to the golf course the next morning, and you can see it says 4:59, so it's actually 5:59 because once again I didn't reset my camera's time. But come to later on find out that it was down to 28 degrees, and when I got down there, the pond that I'd been capturing the Canadian geese flying in and not flying out of, just flying into, because once they landed, they just waddled around. Anyways, it had this nice steam coming in off of it, and I shot this 4-frame panorama and just really loved how the colors, and I was able to capture, I'm not going to call it fog, we'll call it the steam. And here is the second of 2 images where I was capturing the steam coming in off of the pond out there on the golf course. And I framed this up. This is a single image, and I just love the, not sure what kind of pink tree that is, but they were pretty prevalent in and around. So I was hoping to catch it reflecting in the water, which it barely did. There's a little bit of pink in there. But I just loved, the sun was coming up, and I just loved how the trees were reflecting through the mist off the pond into the lake, and then the sand traps up over there at the 2 o'clock position for that green. And just very peaceful. No, the ducks had not shown up yet, or the geese, not ducks. The geese had not showed up yet, but I was probably about 30 minutes away before they would show up once the sun came up just a little bit more. And in this little bitty short video is the geese flying in. As really seen but not seen in that short video clip, I still need to practice capturing birds in flight. But here are the 2 geese coming in for landing. And this was the 3rd day I'd been out there, and they always do the same thing. They come up from the south and circle around, and they land from the north going to the south, regardless of the wind. The day before I tried to capture them, and I had the wrong camera settings, but they did the same, and the wind was flying or blowing in the opposite direction. So the next image is going to be in color. I just thought this one looked pretty interesting in black and white. Yeah, the duck on the left really stands out. Duck, I keep calling them ducks, they're geese. Really stands out as they prepare for landing. Once again, it was just these 2. I didn't see any other birds or any other geese, just these 2 returning back to their pond that they use all day. And so once again, this is called Roll of 24, but you'll notice that this photograph is labeled 10B, because everything is the same, just like the black and white, but this one is the color. And so you can see the pink tree up there at the 2 o'clock position, how bright it was with the sun coming on it. And that's why the previous picture I did in black and white, I wanted to see how the tonal changes were different. And in this one, I actually do like the black and white more than this color one, even though that pink tree is really standing out. It does distract from the geese doing their landing. Even though you can see that the goose on the right, you can actually see it better in this one versus the black and white image. So there's always a trade-off in whatever you take. But this was right before, I think I got one more picture before they actually hit the water. And I had everything pretty much where I wanted it for this day. So on the first day, I missed the geese landing. And then the second day, I had the wrong shutter speed. And so when I was out there getting everything set up, that's why some of the other images were shot at such a high, 1/4,000, was because I was not going to change for this. I just let the ISO fluctuate for the other pictures. So I think I did an awesome job. I just wish that second goose on the right hand side, I wish its head was just back 2 inches, so I could have got both of their heads in focus. But this first goose right here coming in, love their wing positioning. You can see their head and the reflections off the water just as the sun's coming up. I think I properly planned this one, but like I said, this was the 3rd of 4 days when I came down here, the 4th of 4 days, come down here to capture one image. So as I just mentioned, I had everything set up at 1/4,000, and once again, this was the 4th day, and I just love this capture. Kind of wish I was at 1/5,000. When you zoom into 300, 400%, the goose's head's a little blurry. But some of the things you don't realize when you're out there photographing is the golf course manager, superintendent as he called himself. He came down to visit to see what I was doing. He mentioned that he'd seen me out there for the last couple of days and wanted to know what the heck I was doing. And I explained that I was staying at the hotel right there that they have a partnership with. So that kind of glossed it over. But we're standing there talking, and then all of a sudden, that flight shot, that's one of the reasons why it's kind of poor, was that he was talking to me, and then I heard the geese come in, and I'm like, excuse me, and picked up all my camera gear to get ready. And the next several photographs were taken out at the Arboretum, the State Arboretum of Virginia, which was located south of Front Royal, Virginia, a place called Boyce, B-O-Y-C-E, Virginia. And there was a bamboo grove, probably about 2 or 3 acres, not that large. And I captured some to me, very interesting pictures. And then a couple birds that were out there at this location. So the next pictures are out there at the Arboretum for the state of Virginia. This is a common blue violet, and I'm still struggling. I'm using the RF 100 f2.8 macro lens, and probably shot about 65-70. You can see a little bit of blurring over there at the 9 o'clock position off that one petal, and a little bit of blurring on the right hand side over there at 4 o'clock. And this is not a composite, this is just a single shot, because once again, just the slightest breeze takes it out. I just love though how I was able to capture the inner workings of this common blue violet and the coloring that came out of the camera. So you can see some of the focus is a little bit here and there, but I just loved how this one turned out in the end over there at the Arboretum. So what was interesting is I had seen, the lovely bride and I had passed by this Arboretum twice before going out to the wedding venue, and I'm like, I wanted to go to a botanical garden. And so I actually had to ask Siri, hey, what's the difference between a botanical garden and an arboretum? Well, an arboretum's for mostly trees and different type of vegetation, to where, of course, a botanical garden's for plants. So out here at the Arboretum, they had about 3 acres of a bamboo forest, which seemed a little strange, but it was nice. And there were some paths cut through it, and I just loved how the foreground rocks, with the shadows and the sun slowly creeping through at the middle of the afternoon, highlighted the rocks and the fallen tree and the bamboo here in this scene. So in the prior image, this fallen tree trunk log, it was in the midground, and so now I've moved that over here to the foreground, and I did 7 images focus stacking to capture all the detail from right in front of me all the way back to the bamboo grove itself. And I just loved, the sun was coming down. Normally you don't like shooting in the midday sun because it's rather harsh and turns everything flat, but inside of this bamboo grove, these bamboo shoots were probably 20-30 feet tall with all the leaves up on top, so they provided a rather warm image for me to capture this. And the moss growing on this fallen tree trunk, which was kind of strange because I'm looking around, I'm like, where did it even come from? I didn't see the stump anywhere. So this image of another fallen tree, and once again, I'm not sure where these trees even came from, unless they felled these trees, or these trees fell, and then they built the bamboo grove around them, because once again, I couldn't find a tree stump that this had broken off from. Anyways, I just loved how the looked like horns going up, and then capturing the sunbeam coming through the center and the top of this, and the texture of this tree branch. It looks like down there at the lower, around the 5 o'clock, 4 o'clock position, looks like there used to be there had been a fire a long time ago, because it looked all charred and everything. So maybe after this section of the forest burned, that the Arboretum people decided to go ahead and plant the bamboo in this area with the new rich soil. And as I mentioned before, is that the sun was pretty much just a little overhead. So it's almost noon here. Once again, you have to add an hour to all the timestamps on here, because once again I didn't reset my phone. But I looked up, and I was using the Canon 14mm 1.4 that just came out, and I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to capture this sunburst or not. Normally I do these sunbursts at 1 over no, I use f/22, but this lens only goes to f/16, and so I was unsure whether or not these would turn out. So pretty impressed on how it did turn out. And like I said, the canopy, you can see way up there, and it might be 40 feet tall as the canopy. It did block out a lot of the sun. So the reason behind this image here is the juxtaposition of the two new green bamboos and the one in the center that looks like it's slowly dying. And I was able to capture the another path that was behind these to give me good separation between these three and then the path, and then the remaining part of the bamboo grove. And you can see the bamboo grove in the back, probably only another 15 feet before it opens up out into a field. And you do see one oak tree or whatever kind of tree is out there that used to inhabit most of this bamboo grove. And like I said before in the prior image, or 2 images ago, that I guess sometime in the past there was a big fire out here, and that they made the decision, the people at the Arboretum, to go ahead and put in this bamboo. Just beautiful grove. So still wandering around the grove, and I went over to one of the still alive tall standing trees, and this thing's probably about 6 or 7 feet around, and I just love the textures of it. And once again, I'm still using the new Canon RF 14mm ultra wide, and I was able to get probably about 4 or 5 inches away from this tree to capture this image. And I just loved how I was able to capture that one thread from a spider web that crosses the cavern. And so I'd gone earlier to that Luray Cavern, so I just thought it was pretty interesting that taking this picture, and I was like, yeah, reminds me of like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where you have to cross the rope bridge to get across the cavern. But once again, just love the texture and the colorization of this tree that I was standing next to while looking around for some birds to photograph. So after about 45 minutes walking through the bamboo grove and capturing those prior scenes, came out into a field. And once again, this is our Arboretum, so it's similar to me like an amusement park or zoo, where they have different sections for different parts of the habitat. This one, you can see the bush over on the right hand side of the image with the red flowers, and there was a North American cardinal flying around. And as you can see, I had to bump up. I switched over the lens to a 200 to 800, up the shutter speed to 1 over 4,000 and the ISO of 2500, and I captured probably about 15-20. I just love this one where I was able to capture the wings all the way out, no rolling shutter or anything, so that's good. Anytime I can capture a bird in flight without rolling shutters, always a win in my book. So after capturing the image of the cardinal, this was a rather large field, probably about 5 acres, with some intermittent trees, and slowly just walking my way through it back towards the car. And I've still got the 200 to 800 on the camera, and saw this little bird, what is it called? The eastern bluebird. And of course we don't have these down here in Texas. And did a Google search. So this looks like an infant, because the ones in the internet were a lot larger. But I just loved how I was able to capture this. He was kind of bouncing all over the place. And so it probably took about 100 frames just to capture 2 or 3. And as you see in the big image behind me, that's the picture of this one right here, blown up to a 17 by 22, because I really liked how this image turned out. So after the cardinal and the eastern bluebird, other than some hawks or maybe buzzards that were flying way off in the distance, I could not even capture them with the 800. So switched over to the RF 15 to 35 to take some other photos, and just wandering around the Arboretum and looking down. Of course, there's a dandelion, and so as I'm looking down trying to figure out how to frame this dandelion and some other plant growth that was down there right at my feet, this bee decided to land and provide me the perfect subject to augment this otherwise mundane dandelion that looks like all the other dandelions. But he stayed there for probably about 3 or 4 seconds, so I was able to snap off a couple photos, and I like this one the best. Nice, sharp detail. So this image is taken on the 10th of April, Thursday, or Friday. We were heading out of Virginia, heading back towards Texas. And as you can see, it just says rest area, Nowhere, Tennessee. Not really sure where this rest area was, but once again, on the way back, after the first 3 or 4 hours of driving, we decided to make sure we got out every 60 to 90 miles and stretched. And I captured this Columbia tiger lily at this one rest stop somewhere in Tennessee. So we're probably about 5 hours away from Front Royal, Virginia. And it was just really a unique picture. I'd never seen a Columbia tiger lily before. I don't know if we have these down here in Texas, or if they're just something along the East Coast. But really liked how this one turned out and able to capture the detail inside the flower. And the last photo here for the week of 6 April through the 12th of April is the purposeful picture. And this week my challenge was red. So of course I'd seen some red cars, some red fire trucks, seen a lot of things red, but I wanted something different and unique. And Lovely Bride had found this seashell several years ago while visiting Florida, and I found out that under a UV light, the bottom side of it glows red. So I thought that was a very interesting photograph for my purposeful picture this week. And as I just mentioned, so this was my purposeful picture for the week. Once again, those are my own personal challenges that I pull out of my not used lens bags. And I give myself 2 to 3 weeks to think about, what it is I'm going to photograph. And for this week, it was red. And so I had taken some pictures of red vehicles. Took one of out there in the Shenandoah National Park of a red car sitting at a electric charger. And then driving down the road, actually, there was a couple fancy red cars that I'd photographed. Got back home to Texas, took a picture of a red fire truck and a red ambulance, and I was like, you know what, I got this seashell in the backyard that the Lovely Bride had found down in Florida, and took the UV light out, and it was just amazing. This is the red glow from that UV light. This is the underworld of the Greek city. I will say one thing, dear. Video with this 14mm ultra wide angle lens. Will that tower never end? And I hope you enjoyed the eclectic roll of 24 for the week of 6 April through 12 April 2026. Pretty interesting. A lot of flowers, birds, the bamboo grove, which was interesting. I love capturing the starburst, and I was using a new lens, so I wasn't sure. And it only goes to f/16, so I wasn't sure how successful that was going to turn out until I got to the post-processing part. So once again, thank you. And if you enjoyed this episode of Roll of 24, please consider subscribing and hit that like button. I'll see you all again next Wednesday. Bye.